This is NDTV, and you're watching Classics.
Hello and welcome to Walk the Talk. I am Shekhar Gupta and my guest today, Dr. Klaus Schwab, is so extraordinary that nobody, no president, prime minister, CEO, filmmaker, journalist, somebody active in the social sector can say I am busy or I don't have the time when he sends them an invite. Because his baby of 30 years, the World Economic Forum, has now become a kind of United Nations of ideas, where people from around the world, decision makers, get together, put their heads together, sometimes agree, sometimes disagree, but can never ignore the World Economic Forum. Real institution builder, Dr. Klaus Schwab, welcome to Walk the Talk.
Shekhar, thank you very much for this invitation.
And welcome to India. I know it's been a busy year. May in Jordan, June in Africa,
That's
September
right.
in China, October in Russia, and now India.
But you know, what we are doing is part of a process, and actually those regional meetings are very important for us, but they are integrated into a total concept. And the total concept is that today, in the world of today, the global challenges, AIDS, poverty and so on, cannot be solved by business alone or by governments alone or by NGOs alone. What we need is cooperation, collaborative efforts. We have to join all together and to give our best. And that's what the World Economic Forum is about.
So you don't mind the World Economic Forum being described as a United Nations of ideas?
No, because if you want to improve the world, that's our motto and our mission, then you have to start with ideas, with solutions. I always say we need first to define together the problem, then we have to define the objective, how we solve the problem, and finally we have to join in action together. So there are three different steps which we usually apply to our activities. Ideas are very important, and I'm very proud that the forum has generated many new ideas in the world.
Now, as you go, say from Davos in January, then on to Jordan in May, and Africa in June, and China in September, and Russia in October, and India in December, what common strands do you see in these meetings
First,
in terms of ideas?
I think every government today is interested into integrating the country, the economy, into the global sphere. That's what really counts, because there's now the recognition that if you are an open economy, if you are in interaction with the rest of the world, you can make best out of yourself. You can make best in order to address the issues which you have on a local, on a national level. So there is a great interest in order to engage into our different activities.
And what are the common concerns that you hear as you move from capital to capital?
I would say the most important common concern is how can we stay competitive in a world which is driven very much by technological progress, and the technological progress leads to a commodization of work on the one hand. So how can we remain competitive? And you know, the World Economic Forum is today the leading institution in assessing competitiveness.
Well, you've set up the World Competitiveness
Competitiveness
Report.
Report.
We'll talk about that, yes.
But the second pillar is how can we make sure that our competitiveness is combined with social responsibility. We cannot create economies where you have only a few who profit from. You have to create economies which are inclusive. That's today the major challenge in the world, how to create economic progress and social development at the same time. I personally feel the two are not in contradiction, much to the contrary. We need economic progress, we need entrepreneurs in order really to stipulate social progress.
Klaus, there are those who feel that globalization is all about the search for global profits. It's not about a search for global sharing or global concern or global empowerment. It's about picking up global profits, which only some can do in the Western world.
But what do you say here, Shekhar, addresses only one dimension, and I would say a minority of people. Globalization means first growing together. It's not only a business dimension. If you look at communications, if you look at travel, if you look at food and so on, communications is everywhere. Now, if you look at business, business has profited from globalization because it offered new growth opportunities. It created millions and millions of new jobs. What we have to do is, like when we had the revolution of industrialization, you had, at that time, you had long working hours and so on and so on. What we have to do is to tame globalization and to make sure that we reduce the negative impact of globalization on culture and so on as much as possible.
Will you give me some examples of these negative impact effects of globalization, which need to be tamed?
For example, globalization could lead to exploitation. You have companies looking for the cheapest labor, for the best opportunity. That's natural because you are under competitive pressure. But what we are saying, we have to create the rules for globalization. Right. Globalization needs rules. It has to be...
And who would make those rules and who will make sure those are observed?
That's a big problem which we have in the world. We have a lack of global governance.
Right.
If we look at the UN, if we look at the G8, at the international organizations, they are not enough. We need more institutions to develop global rules. But I would add, those global rules should be not only be developed by governments, but by civil society. We are living in an empowered world today, and business has a role to play.
Klaus, you have 2 PhDs, engineering and economics, I believe, and then you studied administration at the Kennedy School. Take us back a little bit in time. How did the idea of World Economic Forum come up? It is a great entrepreneurial idea of these times. How did this happen?
I felt that what we need in the world is not confrontation. I grew up in Germany just after the war, so I had lived through the war as a small child, and I always wondered, why do people fight each other? We have common problems. Let's sit together. So cooperation instead of confrontation. That was always my motto. So I felt when I had an opportunity, I should create a platform where people can interact and they can really address the joint issues, joint problems, and can sit together to find solutions.